How's it going, everybody? Marl the Cross 316 back with another comic book flashback, and we are now looking back in time to February of 1965. That's right, we're looking at the Amazing Spider-Man issue number 21. Today we're going to look at a team-up between the Human Torch and Spider-Man as they take on the disastrous Beetle. So this is going to be a pretty cool issue here. So we see an appearance of the Beetle for the first time in a Spider-Man comic book. This is not his very first appearance, but he does make an appearance here in this issue right here. So as always, this issue is brought to you by Stan Lee, who wrote the issue, Steve Ditko, who drew the issue, as well as Sam Rosen for the person who did the lettering. Alright, so here we go. Great splash page. I just love these splash pages here. We've been seeing them every issue, just awesome stuff. Alright, so we begin the issue here with a guy right here. It looks like he's being let go from prison, and it just so happens to be Jenkins, who is the Beetle. The Beetle, he's been in prison for quite some time. The last time we saw the Beetle was in Strange Tales issue number 123 as he fought the Human Torch. And we see right off the bat that he wants to get payback on the Human Torch. So that's what the story here is going to mostly focus on, is the Beetle trying to get his revenge on the Human Torch. But we're also going to see Spider-Man in this tale as well. Alright, so we start out the issue with the Human Torch, aka Johnny Storm, with his girlfriend Doris. And so they're dating at this point, and she's tired of the Human Torch always flaming on. She has a thing against superheroes. She's not a big fan of superheroes for some reason, and she can't stand that the Human Torch has to go off and fight bad guys all the time when, you know, he could be dating Doris. But we see right here a little bit of the jealousy between Spider-Man and the Human Torch. The crowd loves the Human Torch, but they can't stand Spider-Man. That's part of the downfall of Spider-Man and part of how he is as a character. A lot of people don't understand who Spider-Man is, but they love the Fantastic Four and the Human Torch as well. So he does all these, tricks up in the sky, and Spider-Man's like, what am I even doing? I need to get back to studying or doing something productive. And on top of that, we see the Beetle. He finally comes in an appearance here. He's already getting ready to attack the Human Torch, but he's waiting for an opportune time. And if Spider-Man would have just looked behind him, he would have saw the Beetle, but Spider-Man goes back to his house to do whatever he needs to do. Johnny Storm catches up with Doris, and she's like, I've had it with you always flaming on at the last second whenever I'm talking to you in the streets or wherever we're at. We can never hang out. So Doris gave Johnny Storm a 24-hour notice. If he does not, it's like a challenge basically, if he does not change to the Human Torch for 24 hours, then they'll continue to date. But if he does, they're going to break up. That's how fed up she is with Johnny Storm always flaming on and, breaking up dates and stuff. But as we see right here in the story, we see the Beetle here, and he's kind of listening in on this conversation. He knows exactly where his Johnny Storm's girlfriend lives at, so that's pretty dangerous, and that's going to play a great deal into the storyline. So now let's catch up with our favorite webhead, Spider-Man. So we see that Spider-Man's about to leap into some action here, and we see these guys, they run right into Doris. So Doris plays a good part of this story as well. So she's just carrying stuff from this, I think she's shopping from a jewelry store of some kind. But these teenagers, they bump into her, she drops her stuff, and look who just shows up at the last second. We have Peter Parker, being the gentleman that he is, picks up her stuff and gives it to her, and he notices that as she walks off, she dropped her wallet. So this gives Peter Parker a chance to go after Doris. He finds out where she lives and returns the wallet to her. She invites Peter Parker into her house. And here we see just how amazed she is at Peter Parker, how a stand-up guy he is. So Doris might be showing some favor to Peter Parker. But as Peter Parker leaves, Johnny Storm pulls up and he notices that there's somebody that had just come out of Doris's house. So he asks Doris, "Who is that? Who is that?" And so she says, "All right, this is a great time for me to get Johnny Storm jealous." So she said, "Oh, that was just one of the nicest boys I've ever met, Peter Parker. He's interested in politics, science, and current events." He's like, "Maybe you should take a leaf out of his book." He's like, "Oh, brother." And so while they are talking, we see right here Jenkins, aka the Beetle. He's been listening on. He's in disguise. And he's like, "All right, my plan is already in shape. You just wait what I'm going to do." So we see Peter Parker here. He's with Betty Brant. They are back together after all the drama that's been going on for the past months in this issue. You know that Peter Parker and Betty Brant have been off and on, but we see that Johnny Storm himself, aka the Human Torch, approaches Peter Parker. Now, if you are wondering how in the world does Johnny Storm know Peter Parker, well, they met way back in issue number 4. That was the first appearance of the Sandman. So remember, that's where Peter Parker listened to Johnny Storm give his speech, but also he saw Peter Parker walk out of Dory's house, so that's not good. So he approaches Peter Parker right here, and he says, "You need to lay off my girl. Doris is mine." Betty Brant overhears this conversation, and she gets upset because she thinks that Peter Parker is seeing another girl. And just so happens that we have Flash and his friends come by at the last second, and Flash Thompson's always trying to put Peter Parker down, and Peter Parker's just had enough of it. But Johnny Storm gets in the way and said, "Guys, there's not going to be any fight today." Peter Parker walks off. I mean, you can see the smoke just about getting out of his ears. And then they just start taunting Johnny Storm. And Johnny Storm's like, "I need to get out of here before I really get in trouble." So Peter Parker tries to persuade Betty Brant that was nothing, that there's nothing going on, I'm not seeing anybody, but she doesn't want to hear it. So once again, Peter Parker is in a rut, according to his love life with Betty Brant, things just seems to never go right with him. So he decides he needs to just put on his Spider-Man outfit, and he gets this idea that if Johnny Storm's going to embarrass me in front of Betty Brant, then I'm going to go after his girlfriend. So we see that Spider-Man is going to go to Doris's house, but while he's doing that, the Beetle shows up because the Beetle is getting ready to take Doris hostage. So then we see Spider-Man and the Beetle fight here. So some great action here. Finally, this is a different story compared to others. There's a lot of drama involved before the real action starts. But once again, a classic flashback here to the past. Simpler times in 1965. I can't imagine how it was, but some cool stuff came out of that year. So let's look at just some of this great action here. Spider-Man and the Beetle, and Doris here watching right outside her window. So she calls Johnny Storm. Johnny Storm doesn't believe her. So you gotta flame on. But remember, she's already given Johnny Storm this challenge that he doesn't need to flame on for 24 hours, and it's only been 12. So he doesn't show up, and she's scared to death. And so Spider-Man and the Beetle eventually crash into her window. So they're fighting inside her house, and I mean just tearing up the house. Johnny Storm's like, "I might as well pay Doris a visit because, hey, I mean, that was pretty funny, and I need to see her anyways. I'm kind of bored." So he goes over to her house to see it in an absolute mess. The Beetle grabs Doris and takes her hostage and flies away. And Spider-Man's on the trail of the Beetle. Johnny Storm comes to Doris's house and sees that it's in shambles. So he flames on. He catches up with Spider-Man because he saw that there was webbing all over the place. So he thinks that Spider-Man has his girlfriend. So then we see a fight between Spider-Man and the Human Torch. A big misunderstanding here. And so Spider-Man's like, "Alright, I gotta lead the Human Torch to the Beetle because I need to make him mad. So that's his plan. He's making Human Torch mad the more he taunts, so that he can eventually lead both of them to the Beetle. And his plan eventually works. See an appearance of J. Jonah Jameson here, and he's like, "Where's Peter Parker at?" Then Betty Brant's like, "I don't know, I haven't seen him in a while." So she tries to call his aunt, and of course, Peter Parker's not there because he's fighting the Beetle. So she gets really upset there. So things are not going good between Betty Brant and Peter Parker once again. But, you know, it's very complicated. It's very complicated when you're a superhero and you're also trying to live a normal life as well. So finally, the Human Torch and Spider-Man try to trap the Beetle. So the Beetle is fighting off two superheroes. It's just some awesome stuff here. And so Spider-Man and the Human Torch eventually capture the Beetle here. Spider-Man webs him up, and the Human Torch captures him in this flame cell here. And Doris can't stand Spider-Man. She thinks he's a menace. A lot of people think Spider-Man's a menace. And she's like, "Are you going to let Spider-Man get away?" And we see the conflictions here between Spider-Man. He's like, "Everything I do always ends up going wrong. I try my best to, you know, just be normal, but things just go wrong every time. Spider-Man seems to always get in the way, my Spider-Man persona." But the Human Torch let Spider-Man go because he's still on the fence about Spider-Man as well. Because Spider-Man did help the Human Torch capture the Beetle, but sometimes Spider-Man has had some rivalries with the Human Torch, so he's still on the fence about Spider-Man. So we end on a sober note here. Spider-Man's still thinking about whether he should continue on with his secret identity. Is it even worth having a secret identity? And so it kind of ends in a, you know, not a hopeful way, but again, you know, this story is going to continue to happen, and we're going to see some more thrills, more cool stuff coming up next time. Next comic book flashback for Amazing Spider-Man. Hope to see you there, folks, and I will see you next time.